Hey, Dr. Darko, where'd you go to get your life and disability insurance?
I went to Set for Life Insurance. They helped me save over 30% compared to my previous policy.
Wow, I'm paying an arm and a leg for my life and disability insurance. What's that company called again?
Set for Life Insurance. Check them out at setforlifeinsurance.com and tell them Dr. Darko sent you. Hey, docs. Are you looking to learn how to become a physician leader? Then Physician CEO is for you. Physician CEO is an accelerated business immersion program designed for physicians and developed by MBA faculty from the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University. So learn more at www.physician-ceo.com/DOTB. What's good, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Docs Outside the Box. How do you like our new intro music? Pretty fly, right? No, I'm just joking. That is not our new music. My music hasn't changed at all. What you just heard is music from the very popular punk rock band that's located right out of Chicago. They are called the Boll Weevils. And actually, the lead singer, the lead vocalist that you're hearing is an ER doc that is outside the box. His name is Dr. Daryl Wilson, and he is on this show to talk about everything related to being an ER physician by day and a punk rocker by night. It's pretty fun. This is going to be a pretty fascinating look into his life. And I'm going to keep this intro pretty short. We're going to be talking about how he got involved in punk rock. We're going to go into the highs, the lows of going one day on world tour and then the next minute getting kicked out of his band. We're going to talk about the family support that he needed from his family, even though the music was very foreign to them. We're even going to bring it into a clinical standpoint. We're going to talk about the difference between interacting with his fans all over the world or when he's on tour versus interacting with his patients. And even the time in which he went from being a punk rocker in a concert to being a doctor at a concert. One last thing, I just want to say thank you all for continuing to share these episodes with others who you think may benefit from it. That is how the show continues to grow. And go ahead and continue to be the cool guys and the cool girls and subscribe to this podcast with your favorite podcast app. Now, without further ado, I present ER Doctor by day, punk rocker by night, Dr. Daryl Wilson with the Boll Weevils. Dr. Daryl Wilson. Yes, lead singer of the Boll Weevils. Welcome to Docs Outside the Box. What's good?
Everything's good. I'm glad to be here, Neil. This is great. I'm glad you're doing this show. This is important that people actually have this realization that, besides what we do as healthcare providers, we do a lot of other things outside of this, really outside of the box that makes us full human beings, that people don't always acknowledge that and recognize that.
Not only out of the box, but off the stage, man. Because I see your videos where you're like, how high are you getting with those kicks, man?
I work out. I do CrossFit like an idiot who does the stuff that, goes to a cult. But I do box jumps. I get my hops. I try and keep myself as healthy as I can for an old man. So I still have the springs inside of my legs if I can keep them for as long as possible. Man. It's important. I tell you, I definitely come to this realization that every time I do that, I'm putting significant strain on my knees and my calves. We did a show.
And only doctors think about that, because I was thinking the same thing. I was like, I hope he's taking glucosamine right before he's doing those jumps.
It's funny because it's like you stretch a little bit, you do your thing, you're out there and you do your thing. And then I pay for it definitely the next day. My wife is really, you can't help right now because you need help. I'm like, no, this is good for me. It's not very convincing when you're limping around afterwards. And
right.
I usually put up a jokey kind of incident report of what happened to me and put up my whole medical report of here's every injury that I had during the show and my performance, but I'll be ready to do it again in a month or so. So there was a point, we played at the House of Blues one time. We did this double show. We played an early show, then a late show. And the early show, I did a jump, landed, felt this pop on my Achilles, and it didn't completely tear, but it was strained.
You tore your Achilles?
No, it was partially torn. It wasn't completely torn. It was like a strain. And so I'm sitting there going, well, this is horrible. And this is like 5 songs in. We play the set. We got to play another set. We get done playing the set, the second one, and I'm jumping around still because I'm angry, thinking my anger is going to carry me through this. And I got off the stage, couldn't even walk. I limped to the hotel. My wife goes, what happened? I'm like, can't walk. She says, you're dumb. You are just an idiot. I can't believe an intelligent man like you is such an idiot. I'm like, well, it was worth it. And she's like, worth it to you, but not to me.
I love it, man.
It's fun. I mean, it's definitely fun. The hops are there. I keep them going. I'm proud of myself for being such an old man with hops. So,
and you're doing it in Vans. I mean, you're not even doing it like in Jordans.
I know.
Like really comfortable sneakers.
I'm hoping to get that Vans flow. They have to flow that stuff. It's like, listen, I am showing you that this is the revitalizing. My Vans allow me to hop like that. So if Vans is listening, you got to flow some stuff to Daryl Wilson, Dr. Daryl Wilson, Bo Weevils, Vans flow, boom, holla.
That's what I'm saying. Let's get some endorsements going on, some sponsorship, Right. But look, man, this is amazing. Like, look, I can tell this is already going to be a fun interview. So Dr. Daryl Wilson, you are the lead singer of the group, the Bo Weevils.
Yes.
Look, before we get too much into the nitty-gritty, let's take some steps back. Tell us a little bit about where you're from, what med school, all that stuff.
Oh, yeah. So originally born in Lansing, Michigan, Midwestern kid, born and bred. About, middle school, moved to Southfield, just outside of Detroit. Lived there for a bunch of years. And then we moved to Illinois when I was a senior in high school, we moved. But I always make a joke. My brother and I moving to Illinois, our mutant ability is that we have this nice ability to be able to make friends pretty easily, made friends pretty quick, and call Illinois my home. This is my formative years, I think, happened really here that formed me into who I am today. Basically, I've been here in Illinois since 87, 88. Did my medical school at Loyola, Stritch School of Medicine. Loved that place. That place taught me a lot of the ethical things and moral things that come along with being a physician as well as just teaching you the science of it all. And I think that's an important thing that we have to remember, that we're treating human beings all the time. And we have to always understand the moral implications of what we do, the ethical implications of what we do. And remember that we're humans as well, that we have feelings and we need to actually make sure we protect ourselves and protect the people that we're caring about. I met my wife there. She was a nurse there. So I met her, Joanne Whiteside. She's wonderful. She's my lighthouse that keeps everything centered in this crazy world that I live in. So I appreciate everything that she does. Then we did my residency training at Cook County Hospital. I did a 3+1. So it's like you did 1 year as an intern. I did that at McNeil Hospital and did a rotating internship, and then did my formal training for emergency medicine at Cook County Hospital. So I love that place. That place had a big impact on me as a physician, the people there who were the most wonderful mentors you could ever have to make sure that, I was trained the way that I'm supposed to be trained to be an emergency physician. And so I was there, did my training there, then I've now been practicing out in the western suburbs of Chicago. Been out at Edward Hospital, and I love the place. I'm the EMS medical director there, as well as working, of course, in the ED. So I'm in charge of a lot of medics and their protocols. And I can't say that this is one of the best things I've ever chosen to do in my life, being an emergency physician. I love it. It allows me the free time to do things outside of medicine pretty easily. But I think that no matter what you do, you have to find this free time to do these artistic endeavors that you want to do, or the things that make you feel full. But I mean, my plate when it comes to what I do as a healthcare provider, as an administrator, I'm very fulfilled in what I'm doing. I appreciate all the opportunities I've had to learn. I appreciate all the opportunities I will have to learn at the places that I'm at and all the things that I'm doing. And I appreciate the people around me because they help to foster an environment that is ripe for continuing to grow and move forward, which is good.
So, you're not the only Cook County alum, I guess, on this show. Maybe about 3 months ago, I had Dr. Robert Gore, who was on the show. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but are you familiar with Dr. Robert Gore?
That name sounds familiar. I can't say for certain, though.
But he's the ER physician. He graduated around, I want to say 2005.
That's way after me.
2006, I believe. Yeah. And he's now practicing in Brooklyn, New York. And he started this program called CAVI, Kings Against Violence Initiative, out in Brooklyn, New York. And as a matter of fact, he's going to be a CNN hero. It's a small world. I met him because I'm a trauma surgeon, really interested in trauma. I ended up doing a sub-I at Cook County.
Nice.
When the new Cook County was out there.
Stroger Hospital. That's Stroger Hospital. That's not Cook County, that's Stroger Hospital.
I know there's a difference and stuff. You were there in the real.
I was there in
the real field. Yeah.
Yep. Real deal Holyfield right there. I was in the real deal. It's that Stroger Hospital you were at, sir.
I appreciate the distinction. I recognize and I respect the distinction. But yeah, I just, so I guess you guys never crossed paths, but, just a little small thing.
It was very close because I was done there in 2000. So he would have been coming in years after. Now, I did work at Provident Hospital on the South Side for a bit. And I did come back and do a couple of attending shifts at Cook County proper. But by the time I had left Provident and then had moved on to other places, he'd have been just starting. So I didn't get to meet him, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, look, obviously you
There's an opportunity now, though. Now we have this connection. So
that's what I'm saying. This is really amazing, though, because you are literally a physician by day, dad by day, husband by day.
Yes.
But at night, you're a punk rocker at night. Like, let's talk about this. How did you get started with music? What was your inspiration? Take us through that story.
So, my mom, who was a PhD, my mom, as a child, she was always into music, and we had music around the house all the time. My dad, we had music around the house all the time. My mom even had, offered a contract to sing at Motown back in the day, but she never.
Are you serious?
Yes, I'm serious. So she never.
So music is in your blood.
Yes. So she never took it. She went on to pursue higher education, and that was it. But she had that opportunity to be a singer, and she was a great singer. She sang in the choir. My grandfather was a minister at their church. Aretha Franklin was in their church. So
what?
Church family.
Are you serious?
Back in the day, so they knew people back in the day. I didn't meet all these people, of course, as my mom talked about when she was a child that she knew these people. But she was a singer. My sister can sing, my brother can sing, everybody can sing. But there was music always in our house all the time. And my parents would be playing like Sly and the Family Stone, playing. My sister had Prince on all the time. All these things that made us love music, all of it. And as I grew up, I started to really get more involved in music that was more aggressive. My parents separated and then divorced. And of course, you're full of teenage angst as a boy anyway.
The rebel years.
Yeah. So you find out, what are you going to do? You can either go down a pathway of being really, 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 really pathologic, or finding some outlet that would be aggressive, yet in a way it's going to be productive and not destroy you in some senses. And I found that here's some rock and roll songs. And I was like, well, rock and roll sounds pretty cool. I liked it. And AC/DC was a band that I heard back in the day. I'm like, this is great. Then I heard Iron Maiden. I'm like, this is great. I love this aggressive stuff. This is crazy. I love this. And then I remember there was a buddy of mine who I was trying to get into skateboarding because I wanted to do things that were kind of aggressive and to kind of get my body moving and just thrash around. And this guy brought a tape to this park we were skating at. And he said, here, you should listen to this music. And I said, okay. And so he gave me this tape, and it was a tape with the Germs, the Adolescents, and the Angry Samoans. And so I listened to this tape and I was like hooked. I love this. This made me feel the music was what I understood as being an angry kid. And it expressed my anger and angst and everything that I felt that was happening around me. The world was horrible. Everything was this, but this explained it and made it palpable, and I could taste it and I could spit it back out and be like, yeah, that's what the world was like. And I could deal with it.
So me against the world, basically.
Me against the world.
And what year is this?
God, this is 83, 84.
Okay.
Then I was getting into punk. So then we moved here to Illinois, and I still was into punk because I'm just into that. That's me. And was introduced to Chicago bands that I'd heard of. I heard of the Effigies and things like that. And finally it's like, hey, you got to listen to this band Naked Ray Gun. And I'm like, okay. So I heard this band Naked Ray Gun, and I'm like, this is amazing. This is gritty. This is Chicago. This is it, man. This is my place. I love Chicago.
But at this point, do you play an instrument though? Is that even important?
Not at all. I played the drums for maybe a short course.
Gotcha.
And it was and I played the clarinet in fourth grade for about maybe 4 classes. It was almost this bad Leave It to Beaver episode where he's supposed to play the Old Gray Mare. Seriously, I was going to play the Old Gray Mare, and I could play and that was it. They said, go back to your class. So I knew that was going to be But I took the clarinet home, had all the reeds. My mom was happy. She's like, boy, that was ridiculous that you didn't even practice. But, I was a singer. My voice was my instrument, not the clarinet. I came to Chicago, started listening to Chicago bands, started going to shows here, and I met my buddies in the band. They were going to shows too. We were all hanging out. We were the survivors in the front, going to shows all the time, surviving the skinhead wall of death. And we were like, hey, man, they thought I looked cool. They said, sing in our band because you look cool. I'm like, all right. They didn't know if I could sing. And so they handed me a tape. The next thing you know, I'm at a practice and we're writing songs. And then the rest is history. We've been doing this now since 89. So that's kind of my whole foray into getting into performing. And my whole goal, it being in a punk rock band, was just to meet my heroes who played in other punk rock bands. And I got to do that. But it just kind of grew from there, where it's just like, hey, we weren't that great, but we weren't that bad, and there weren't that many choices. So, of course, you're going to be like, that's pretty okay.
Can you remember where your first show was at or what it was like?
Yes, my very first show that I played with the band was wonderful venue to play, the Metro. It was called the Cabaret Metro back then. And the Metro was like the epitome of where you wanted to be in a band playing on that stage. And we got to play with my heroes in Naked Ray Gun. We got to open up for them, which was crazy. It's like, how does that happen where you get to come, there's some guys who started a band, you come in and your first show is opening up for Naked Ray Gun at the Metro. But then, of course, you go from the pinnacle and you drop on down to the basement and you got to start rising again. So you get the taste of what success is. You go, this is what it tastes like. Okay, work your way back up. And we did that. So that was an amazing start to an illustrious career in punk rock music.
So wait, what did your parents think at this point? I mean, you're talking about going from Motown to punk rock. Like, were they at one point like, where did we go wrong? Like, what?
No,
let's hear about that. Let's hear about that,
man. The thing about music is just music, man. It's a universal language. There's nothing about music that is black, white, except for when it's written on the page. That's about it. I mean, it's like the messages behind music and songs are universal. I mean, if it's about sadness or about, you know, a breakup between you and a girl, man, that's what songs are all about when you're an adolescent boy. It's like, hey, that girl didn't like me. Oh, this sucks. So that's what rhythm and blues songs are about. You think about soul singers and what they're singing sometimes, and guys are like going, you, and you're like, I love you, you. That's the same thing as going like, I hate you because you don't like me. It's the same.
Right.
So music is universal. It's just a matter of what's pleasing to the ear, what gets you kind of a feeling of familiarity with what you're feeling at the time. So music is feeling, and whatever you're feeling, you can find a genre of music that can actually kind of emote that in some way. And so my parents weren't ever like, oh my God. They were maybe a little concerned sometimes about skateboarding because I didn't have a helmet on and things like that. Now, of course, being an emergency physician, wear a helmet, protect yourself.
Right.
But, you know, going to shows.
Love the PSA and love the PSA in the show.
Right. But my mom was just like, hey, you're going. She trusted me, my brother and I. My brother wasn't going to punk shows, but they taught all of us as kids to be respectful of yourself and make sure you never compromise who you are. So I don't think she had concerns because she knew my friends. She knew, you know, about what I was doing kind of, but she didn't ever think I was doing something nefarious. I wasn't hiding in my room, lights all off, blacklight posters up, and kind of just sitting there with a blade in my hand, rubbing it slowly across my wrist. Something like that. It was like, hey, I'm going to a show. It's going to be fun. You know, I come back and I'd be excited about what I saw. So I think just seeing my elation, my feelings of feeling like, hey, I feel good about this. She was okay with that. The funny thing about speaking about my mom, they recently just saw the band play live. She'd never seen us play live.
Really?
All the time they've been playing, except for just a couple months ago on my mom and stepdad's like 27th wedding anniversary. They were here in Illinois and we took them to a show and they had a wonderful time. My mom is the biggest fan of the Bo Weevils right now. So that's good. My mom's the biggest fan. So I'll take that.
I love it. Let me ask you a question because I always get confused about how it works with rock bands. So as the lead singer, like who does the majority of the writing? Does someone just kind of show up and give you like a writing, say, I want you to sing this? Or is it like you guys are writing music all together? Because
it's a collaborative effort. So it's like, I mean, I have some of my best friends are in the band with me. My buddy Ken, who I've known forever. I love him. Both Pete, our drummer, and Pete, our bass player. Those guys have been friends of mine forever. I mean, really, Pete, our bass player, was our first roadie on our first tour. He didn't do a lot of carrying of stuff. He drove the van, but decided not to carry any of our equipment, which is funny. And he brings it up every time I talk to him. But so those guys, we have this kind of melding of the mind where we know what the next step that somebody's going to play. Like Ken will bring a bunch of riffs to practice and start playing the riffs. And then we'll start kind of just playing along. And I might have a theme in my head of something. And then I can start coming up with lyrics that go along with that. Usually starting with a chorus of something, because the chorus is what brings you back to it, saying, this is what we're talking about. This is why we're yelling. This is why we're screaming. This is why we're pointing. And that's kind of the thing. So I have a theme. Ken comes up with a guitar riff. You know, he brings it there and it all comes together. Sometimes things don't work. We just take things and we melt it together, we throw it out. But a lot of times, since we've been so collaborative for such a long time, we usually know what the next chord change is going to be or how I might sing a song. Ken will come with something and go like, I think I know how you're going to sing this. And he's usually right. In the beginning, we weren't really good at taking criticism from each other. Where if you said, hey, you should play it this way, it's like, dude, I play guitar. You don't play guitar. Don't tell me how to play guitar.
Ooh, stay in your lane.
But now as we've matured and gotten older, I mean, all those little petty things that you actually squabbled about back in the day that really you thought were important that really aren't. The writing effort is much easier because we can take criticisms and say, hey, you've done this better before. So sing this a different way. Because what you're doing, you're phoning it in right now. And then you can get called out for it and go like, okay, you're right. So the effort to write songs is really a mishmash of collaboration where people come with riffs. People might coming with lyrics to a practice never works. It's usually, here's the song, here's what it sounds like. And you get a feel for what that theme is. And then it's like, oh, I had a theme about this. And then you start putting the words together. Then it all kind of then becomes gelled and then it cooks. And then you have a song. It works.
So who's the Bobby Brown of the group? Like who's the Michael Jackson? Who's the, or whatever the relation is in any rock band who's got kicked out? Like who's the pain in the ass? Who's the one that you're like, man, we almost kicked you out like 9 times. Like, is there such a thing in the group?
I was kicked out before. I mean,
are you serious?
Yeah, the band broke up before because when I started residency, I had to leave in the middle of a tour to go start residency and they were pissed. Then they came back. I played a big show with them. They were pissed. And then the next show we played, they said, hey, this is our last show. I'm like, okay. Yeah, it's our last song. I'm like, last song ever. We're not playing anymore. I'm like, whoa. So we've all had our moments where I was kicked out of the band at one point when the band broke up. But yeah, I mean, every practice, Ken quits, our guitar player quits every practice. So I mean, that's one thing. When he doesn't, there's something wrong if he hasn't quit by the end of practice. So we all have our own nuances of our personalities. I'm probably the face of the band in some sense, and people come up to me and talk to me more. And I'm pretty easygoing about stuff. Pete, our drummer's pretty laid back and pretty just chill. Our bass player, Pete, is the wild man. He's up there. He's always like ready to go. And then Ken is kind of our guy who is business, strictly business sometimes, but he's really cool too. I mean, we're all fun people to hang out with. But yeah, if we had to say that, are we all semi kind of moronic in some sense? Yes, we all are semi-moronic in some way. And there are people that are going to pick out and say, I don't like him for this. I don't like him for this. I don't like him for this. But as a group, they're pretty cool. So that's what I think.
And now, a word from our sponsor. Understanding how to run a business in medicine will put you at a unique advantage in the future. Whether it's leading a hospital, practice, or starting a new venture, the Physician CEO program will put you in focus from day one. Physician CEO is an accelerated business immersion program developed by MBA faculty from the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University. The Physician CEO program provides an intensive MBA-style education made up of modules, with each module covering topics from leadership to entrepreneurial ventures. Because of their individualized structure, each participant leaves the program with their 1, 3, and even 5-year business plan, all designed to function in the real world. If you're a physician who is looking to start your own venture, lead your practice or department, or even start planning for succession out of medicine, then you can't afford to miss this opportunity. Class is filling up. Learn more at www.physician-ceo.com/DOTB.
So it seems as though you fell in love with music first. Like, when did medicine start to rear its head and maybe ugly head into the picture?
So the funny thing is, I always wanted to be a physician since I was 7 years old. So medicine was probably the first thing that I really was in love with. And that came about because of watching my grandfather die of cancer. He was a barber in Saginaw, Michigan, and he was dying of cancer. He had a GI cancer at the time, and I'd never seen my father upset in my life. My father was like a pillar of strength and my hero. And I never seen anything about him that would make me think otherwise until I started to learn more about my father. And then I learned a lot of things I didn't particularly care about for him. But at the time, when you're a 7-year-old kid and you see your dad crying, that's the first time you've ever seen your dad cry. And you're wondering what's going on. And you figure out, well, his father, my grandfather, is dying. That was pretty big. Yeah, that was a pretty big thing for me. It was a big transition for me. Like, this is not the way this is supposed to work. I hadn't seen anybody die in my life. And so we went to visit my grandfather in the hospital, and the hospital was as I've said this in other interviews, a cold, stark, very dank place, a place that wasn't full of joy, a place that you thought, hey, this is where people are going to be cared for. It felt like a place where they were just putting people away and like, we didn't care about this. And my only interaction with physicians was my pediatrician, Dr. Wortley at the time in Michigan, who was great. All I felt when I went to go see him was, this is like caring. This is cheery. This is the way this goes. I felt comfortable. I felt confident as a little kid going to see this physician who would draw little Daniel tigers on my little, Band-Aids as they would take our finger sticks and things like that. So when I went to the hospital, I said, this isn't how physicians are supposed to be. This was not the way I thought physicians were supposed to be. And I felt that my grandfather was just dying alone and sad. And I said to my parents, I said, I'm going to become a doctor so that people can get treated well. I don't think this is the way this is supposed to be. Hospitals felt bad. I wanted to change the way that was supposed to happen. And so that was my first inroads into being a physician. All along, I thought as a kid, I want to be a stuntman, I want to do all this crazy stuff, but I wanted to be a physician since then. And then my grandmother, fast forward, when I was in high school, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And this was my dad's mom. My parents had been divorced by that time, but, I still was in touch with her. And she moved to Arizona. And I remember talking to her on the phone. We were going to go visit her. And she was really sick at the time. And I was talking to her and I was giving her very just kind words and words of encouragement and things like that. And she told me, you're going to have a very good bedside manner when you become a physician, is what she told me. And within the next 3 days, she was dead. So I didn't get to go out and see her. So that kind of made me go, hey, I'm meant to do this. I'm meant to help comfort people in their time of need. And so medicine was full bore at that point. And yeah, I still was listening to punk rock, things like that. But then music came as a secondary thing afterwards that, hey, I fell into that while I was in college and getting ready to go on to med school. And I remember a girl I was dating at the time, who was not my wife, a girl I was dating at the time who was there when I started in the band, who was a punk rock girl, told me something, and I will remember this to this day. There's no way you can be a doctor and be a punk rocker at the same time. You can't do those two things. She told me I can't. And I was always taught by my parents that the only person that can tell you can't do something is you. And if somebody else tells you that, I'm going to prove them wrong every time. And so I'm like, whoa, this is what I enjoy doing. You're going to tell me I can't do the things I enjoy together? And she also had a bias versus physicians, thinking all physicians are basically horrible human beings. And you're going to turn into a horrible human being by being a physician. I'm like, well, this is what I'm doing. You're dating me and you're going to say this? And so, of course, we broke up. But she did try to call me at the end of medical school because she had to just try and, wait and not go through all that other stuff and try and get there at the end. It's like, no,
it's too late.
You got to come through the suffering. You can't just get at the end, see the forged steel. You got to hit that hammer on that hot molten metal. And
you got to co-sign some loans, lady. Come on now.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
You did not put their signature down on this. So, I was in love with medicine well before that. And it was all because of the interactions I had with physicians beforehand. And then mentors I had in college where I went and did like a Robert Wood Johnson program and met a bunch of physicians because I didn't see physicians who looked like me yet. And when I finally saw physicians who looked like me, I knew for certain I can do this. I'm going to be that. I'm going to be that next generation of physicians who's going to inspire other people to do it as well. And
I love that
was my big push that helped me to get the rocket fuel. The rocket was built and it was ready to go. But then when I saw people, I go, that's me doing this. I can do this. I know I can for certain. I just lit the fuel and I was off. I did the Kessel run as fast as I could. I was in the Millennium Falcon, so I was gone.
So how did you balance medical school with going on tour or with going to different shows? That's got to be really tough.
So it was tough because I swear in medical school, the way it was set up before is that you'd have all your didactics for the first 2 years. Mm-hmm. And I would have this time where I'd be off. You'd be off for summer, then you come back and do school again. And I remember I'd be done with classes and it'd be like, we're getting in the van, let's go on. And we'd be gone. We'd be gone for a bunch of weeks for the summer. We'd go on tour, boom, play shows here and there intermittently on times and the weekends. But we went on tours during those times. And for those first couple of years, that was pretty easy. And then during my clinical rotations, you'd have rotations. You might be off for a couple of weeks and go back and do another rotation. I'd be getting out of a rotation, the last day of the rotation, and they'd be waiting with the van. Yo, get in the van, let's go. And we'd be gone for a couple of weeks. They'd come right
jump
back,
in,
go to the next
jump
rotation.
in, they slide the door.
Exactly. And go to the next, and then I'd come back, drop me off, see you at the next time. Rotation again, start another rotation. My whole thing of just going from rotation to rotation and from playing a show to playing a show to going on tour, my family was able to really accommodate that and understood that I might not come visit for Christmas. I might not come visit during that time, but they were okay with that. And they knew that it was something that made me completed. I was not unbalanced in any way. And that's the thing. It sounds unbalanced because you are missing out on one aspect of things, but I had support of people around me that loved me so much that knew that, hey, you're going to be here. You're going to swing back and see me in the orbit. It's not that you've forgotten about us because you don't forget about those people. Them being strong enough to actually have the wherewithal to say, I don't need to see Daryl right now. It's okay. It doesn't mean he doesn't think about me or love me. I'm okay with that. Having those strong people around you helps to keep me strong. And that's the most important thing, is having this wonderful kind of gang of people that can roll with you, that are actually able to allow you to be you.
I love it, man. I love it. Thank you for sharing that, actually. I really, really appreciate that. Let's take a little bit of a pivot a little bit. Let's fast forward to residency.
Oh, yeah.
When you're trying to manage, obviously, the resident life with touring and you getting kicked out. And then you took a long hiatus, actually, between, the band and medicine. What was life like during that time when you weren't, playing in the band? Was there a significant difference? Obviously, you had more time, but, any highs, lows? Let's talk about that.
I mean, the funny thing is, I still played in a band at that time. We started another band. I was in a band with some other friends of mine called Lando's 45, was this other band I played in. So we still played shows during residency. So I still had a musical outlet. It wasn't like I ever stopped. You finally get that reference to Lando's 45, right?
I get it.
So, and that was the thing. I never stopped playing music. And it was funny because I remember...
Was there beef? Was there beef between you and, your original group?
Yes, it was. We totally were like diametrically opposed to each other. We were like the poles of magnetic field. Like, nope, can't get together. No way, this isn't going to work. And so we were hating each other. And it was funny because I remember we were playing a show as Lando's 45 with me and my buddy Mike Catani and Etch and all these guys. We were playing the show, and the guys, Bob and Ken from the Boll Weevils, were at the show, and they were watching us play. And I remember them standing there looking at it, and they were like just shaking their heads, just disgusted. Like,
this is like a scene from Purple Rain, basically. They were like, who's the time and who is the revolution?
Right. So they were disgusted. And I remember talking to Ken about that later on. He's like, you walk around with some other girl, like watching you walk around with some other people, like you're cheating on us or something. I'm like, well, no, you guys broke up with me. It's like, that's the thing. I was moving on. It's like, that's how that goes. And they moved on. They played in other bands too, but it was never really the same. And then we got back together on kind of a whim. It was like this whole...
All right, let's talk about that. Let's get into that. What brought you guys together? What was that like? Did you guys just hug it out? Was it like a big argument? Like, what happened?
Well, the funny thing is Ken became a teacher, then a principal at school. He understood now what it meant to have your professional life and then do this on the same side. It was hard to manage, but you could do it. So he kind of had a better understanding. And he and I reached out to each other and said, hey, this was dumb that we had this kind of falling out. And my wife said it. My wife was big on like, why are you guys acting like teenagers when you guys are adults? And you guys have been friends forever. Why are you not friends anymore? What was the real rationale for that? And people felt hurt feelings at the time. And we became mature adults and said, well, semi-mature adults, I'd say in some senses, but we became more mature adults and we reconciled. And him and I got together, started playing in a band together.
This is the third band now.
Yes. So we started playing in a band together. And so we then had this offer to do a show for some friends of ours, Monica and Justin, for a radio station for Loyola, WLUW. It was a benefit show at the Metro. And they wanted us to get back together with the Boll Weevils to do the show. So they contacted Bob, our former bass player. We got our new drummer, Pete, who's our drummer now. And Pete is an amazing drummer. I love him. He's one of our best friends. And Pete, he just made it all gel. And so we get together. The stipulation was we went to this practice. If the practice sounded horrible, we weren't going to do it. And we got back together. It was like riding a bike. We got on, boom, tricks. We were like doing, endos. We were doing all kinds of bike tricks. Spin the wheel, all this stuff. Supermans. It was crazy. So it worked out well. And it's like, well, this was good. So we played the show and we thought that was it. One-off show, we're done. Then Riot Fest came along and said, hey, we'd like you guys to do this show. And we're like, all right. So we did it again. And at that point, we realized this was too much fun. It was way too much fun. And we've grown up, we've matured. We can do this and make it happen our way. And we've been playing ever since. So since 2006, we're back together. 2006, back together permanently since that time.
So one thing that I think is missing from this, though, is, we're talking about you being in a band, also being a physician, and like kind of the things that go behind it, though. But like, we want to hear about the arc. Like, how high did you get with this band? Because you're talking about coming back. People want you to come back. You're getting asked to come to different shows. You're on TV. Like, prior to this, like, how high did you guys get? Because it sounds like you guys were really, really famous.
So I was never saying we were really, really famous. We were famous enough, I guess, in some sense. Let's see. We weren't in the Avengers, if you're going to superhero references.
Okay.
We weren't even Daredevil or Luke Cage on the street level kind of hero. I wouldn't even say we were Moon Knight in some senses. I would say that we were more, I mean, they were kind of probably schizophrenic like him, but I mean, we'd be more like, if we're going DC, Bronze Tiger, maybe kind of DC.
Okay.
Maybe Suicide Squad, Bronze Tiger-ish. I went from Marvel to DC at that point, by the way. I'm sorry for all my geeks out there. But we were popular enough. We were on a label out in California and we toured a bunch. We were getting offers to play overseas in Japan and Europe, but couldn't do it because of medical school at the time. I didn't have the time in residency. So we had opportunities that were afforded to us that I just couldn't take that probably would have springboarded us a little bit farther. It's like we weren't like the most popular band. Like we're not a Circle Jerks and things like that, but we run in circles with a lot of these bands and a lot of bands might know us. So it's popular enough that I used to get a royalty check back in medical school.
Really? Okay.
It would pay for my Taco Bell for a while. It would do that at the time.
Extra cheese.
Yes, it was all good. Yeah, people did want us to come back. We were a Chicago band that was pretty popular. And locally, we were pretty big. And then some international and nationally known stuff. And now that we've gotten this comeback, we've gotten a little bit more popular, which is the thing that blows my wife's mind every time. It's like, why would this happen at this time in our lives? That
groupies?
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. That suddenly that you'd have this, sudden, resurgence of popularity at this late juncture in life, which is good. I mean, it's fun. That's what it's fun. And we have a good time.
Hey, so compare and contrast the experience of interacting with patients versus interacting with fans.
In some senses, it's the same in some ways, because you have this, especially as being an emergency physician, you have a performance you're doing almost, because you have to be able to find a way to find commonalities and common ground with a person who's kind of a complete stranger to you. They might know of you because you're the physician who's coming in. They may have been around the hospital before, or the nurses introduced you beforehand. They talk about some things about you. So you come in and have to garner some semblance of trust with this individual who you're seeing as a patient to get, intimate details of what's going on in their life to help them get better. And interacting with fans are easier in the sense because they're coming to you because they want to see you most of the time. People in healthcare don't want to see you half the time. They're there because they feel horrible. But you do have to have that interaction with them that is meaningful in a short discourse. It can't be like, I'm going to sit down and have dinner with you right now. It's like, hey, this is cool. Let's get this together. Oh, this is awesome. We're hanging out. I'm cool. We're hanging out. This is great. I got to go on to the next thing. So there's that kind of interaction. I prefer people that want me to be there. I prefer fans coming up because they definitely have a stake in liking me. Some patients, of course, may have a previous care for me based upon something that has nothing to do with anything, or because of their station in life, or because of how they feel. But I have to overcome that, which is the performance part of it. So you have to be able to get their trust and make them want to divulge information that may be very sensitive and do things to them that may be somewhat painful, or give them news that they may not want to hear. When I'm performing, everybody wants to hear what you have to say because they came to see the band anyway. It's the fan that's not a fan yet that's kind of like that patient where you have to convince them that, hey, you like us. We're the Boll Weevils. You like us. And like, oh, I didn't know you before. Now I do. That's the thing. So I find that the fans who aren't fans yet are like the patients. The fans who are already fans are just people that I love because they just boost the ego even more. They make me feel better about myself.
I love it. That's a great answer, actually. I didn't even think about it that way, actually. So now that you're on tour at times, how are you able to balance family life, work, and, obviously the Boll Weevils?
That falls, I guess, really on the shoulders. My wife is very understanding and caring for her kids and making home life easy. If I didn't have her as my partner, then the stuff wouldn't be easy to do. That's the thing. I mean, and sometimes that's never really acknowledged, that people think, how do you do all this all the time? I'm not doing it alone. That's the thing, because I have a spouse that's really awesome that helps out, and I have family that's really supportive. That's how that gets done. How you get things done is, once again, having a bench that's there to help you out, that you can call upon to actually really support you in times when you really need that support. We don't tour all the time. Like, we do shows where we fly out and do a show and then come back, so we're not gone for weeks on end. It's trying to find moments when you can get it done. And sometimes things fall by the wayside where it's like, hey, family wants to do this right now. I can't do that with the band. Hey, there's some time. I'm going to do this now with the band. I can't do this with the family right now. Work's in the way. We can't go do these shows because I'm working on during that time. It's like, you can't just suddenly call me up one day and say, hey, can you do a show in a couple of days? Like, no, man, I'm working, or my schedule is being made like months in advance. But somebody asked me, hey, what are you doing in 3 months? I'm like, I don't know my schedule yet. So let me first get my schedule. Like, well, I need to know tomorrow. I'm like, I can't tell you tomorrow. So it's having people understanding that is really a bonus. And people that don't understand that and don't get it probably don't call me. So that's the things I wouldn't even know. But the way that the balance occurs is because I have other people to pick up things that might drop. It's like having a bunch of spinning plates going at one time. And, hey, those plates are spinning, but one of them's dropping and I can't get to it. But I got people who are really my compatriots who are grabbing those plates before they hit the ground and putting them back up there. So if I didn't have my wife, my mom, my stepdad, my brother, my sister, my friends, my colleagues at work and the support of the administration and things like that, I couldn't do all this stuff. So I am a person who is blessed to have a wonderful supporting cast of people around me. And really, I'm more the supporting cast. They're the people that are actually forefront and producing the show and, directing the show, and you're doing wardrobe, and all those things are important to make the person who thinks they're the star look like a star. Because if you didn't have all that stuff, you'd be sitting there just acting out a puppet show at your house. That's how that would go down. So that's how I balance it. It's because it's not balanced. Other people pick up the slack when the slack is falling off.
Now, is it true that while you were performing once, a woman passed out into the audience and you had to go into doctor mode?
That happens a lot.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's happened in a bunch of different things. I mean, there's always been moments where that's come into play. We were just in England. We were playing Rebellion Festival, in one of the oldest punk rock fests in the world. So we were there and we were going to do a set, and this lady had passed out and she's laying there. It's like, what is going on? And the medics arrive there and I'm just like, well, I can't just walk by her. I'm going to sit there and so I go down and start talking to her and look and she was gooped up on some, intoxicant at the point, and it wasn't alcohol. So, and it's like, she was fine. I was there. I helped out. I went on to the next thing. But then there are other people that were succumbing to heat emergencies that were in spots and they're going down. So this guy's laying there. He's sweating. He's tachycardic. He's been drinking alcohol all day. He's laying there. The medics there, they're trying to get a line. I'm thinking, do I help him start the line or not? I mean, I'm like, so that's
what's the Good Samaritan rules here?
Right. I don't know. I'm over here in England now. I don't know. I'm part of the Royal Health System. I don't know what I can do here. But I mean, we've had experiences throughout all of my career where there's been a mishap or something that occurs at a show where I've had people stage diving. They come up, they have this huge head injury. They get gash on their head. I'm looking, I'm like, no, man, you can't stay here. You have to go to the hospital. Can't you just look at this and I'm like, no, I don't have anything to do to fix this right now. I have no lidocaine. I have nothing to suture you with right now. You need to go get this looked at. And you're kind of a little dazed. So I know you have at least a concussive injury. You got to go get looked at. You probably need your head scanned right now because you're kind of walking goofy. Might be the booze, but hey, you need to go get looked at. No, I'm okay. I'm like, I'm the doctor here. No, don't tell me you're okay. If I'm telling you to go to the hospital, you should go to the hospital immediately. So,
but I just caught you in a crowd surf.
I know. Your fault, doctor.
Your foot hit me in the head, man.
So what's your liability coverage again, Wilson? I want to know something about this. So is Vans covering you right now? Because that van So that happens a lot. It's more often than I would actually want it to happen.
Well, Dr. Daryl, we are at the end of the interview.
Oh, yeah.
Let's do some quick, fast questions, quick fire. I'll ask you a question. You just say the quickest thing that comes off the top of your head.
No, I'm too verbose. I got a problem already.
Oh, man. All right. Well, hey, I got the final edit, pal.
I cut you out right here.
I love it. So, hey, man, what's one thing that you want people to get from this podcast?
Don't judge a book by its cover. Take everybody that you meet as an individual and go out there and meet them. The world would be a much better place if you just looked at people and said, I'm interested in who you are. Let me know who you are. And then, hey, let me know who you are, and then get together. So don't judge a book by its cover.
So, Dr. Wilson, you've been able to travel with the band. You've been able to obviously reach the highs of being a physician as well as with being a punk rocker with your band. Is there anything else out there that you really want to do that you've never been able to accomplish? Any thoughts of doing anything really cool, crazy?
I mean, I'd love to be a successful businessman in some way, in some sense like that, I mean, the biggest thing that I have on my plate is making sure that my children are going to be successful human beings. And that's something that I'm doing, but I don't know how it's going to end up. So that's my biggest, I guess, next thing to accomplish is making sure my kids are okay. So that's my big thing. I guess it's a more metaphysical thing of like my kids being successful, but me, something to do, I guess, creating the perfect beer. I don't know.
Love it.
I think making my kids successful is the big thing I'm looking at.
Love it. Let's say you got a chance to get into the DeLorean. I mean, you like obviously movies and so forth, and you got a chance to go back and give yourself as a med student or even as a pre-med some advice. So for all the pre-meds, med students out there, what kind of advice would you have given yourself knowing what you know now?
Be true to yourself, man. I mean, that's the thing. When people tell you can't do something, if you truly don't think you're going to do it, you're never going to accomplish it. So, I mean, it's like anything. It's like going into lifting a weight or to reading something that you don't comprehend or learning some song. It's like, just be true to yourself and just work hard at being you. Everything else will come to you at that point. If you're trying to be something else and you're working so hard to be something else, you're going to be just always doing that. So just be you and be true to that. And everything else will open up and be really easy.
Love it. Love it. I want you to finish this sentence for me. It's hashtag, I'm not just a doctor, or I'm not just a doc. I'm a
maverick.
Love it. Love it. I don't think anybody's answered that before, actually. I thought you were going to do punk rocker, but okay. I love it, man. I love it. Well, look, Dr. Daryl Wilson, man, I really, really appreciated you coming on the show. You truly are a doc outside the box, definitely non-traditional. And, I think the audience has learned a lot from you, has definitely learned about being true to yourself and all the highs and the arcs that it can take you through. So thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for your time.
Man. Of course, man. Everything's possible in the world. You just got to just reach out and do it. That's the bottom line.
Hey, when's your next show? Let's tell the audience how we can learn more about you, where we can.
Yeah, you can see us on
touring, all that.
Oh yeah, we're on Twitter. So you find the Boll Weevils Chicago on Twitter. You got us on Instagram, the Boll Weevils on Instagram. I don't even know where it is, but it's somewhere on Instagram. We're on Facebook, of course, which is an ancient social medium out there. Facebook, the Boll Weevils. We're also going to be playing some shows coming up. We're playing in Chicago here. We're playing at our wonderful spot called the Liars Club. One of our favorite places to be on September 15th, a show that's kind of after the end of a little festival. There's Riot Fest is playing that time. So we're going to be playing, it's not an official Riot Fest show. It's just a show at the Liars Club. We're also playing September 22nd in Lisle, Illinois at the base camp in Lisle at the Punk the Burbs Fest 2, which is going to be really nice. Also going to be playing in Denver. So if you're in Denver, October 13th, we'll be playing at the Anxious Little Friends Fest, which is the inaugural fest with the Riverboat Gamblers and Off With Their Heads and Spells. It's going to be a great show out there in Denver. So October 13th, we're playing. The festival's from the 12th to the 13th. And also we'll be playing the fest down in Gainesville, Florida, one of the last punk rock fests of the season. Great fun time playing on that Saturday, Paper and Plastic Showcase. So we got some shows coming up. So if you're around somewhere in the country, you want to travel to see the punk rock doc, as they say, please come out and support us. Go see us on Facebook, like us, set up a conversation with me, and I'll probably say some witty banter back to you about something. So we got shows, we got records. You can go online to find us on our Bandcamp page and buy our records, and they won't make your ears bleed that badly. So
love it. I love it, man. Thanks again for being on Docs Outside the Box.
Of course, anytime, Nia. I appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me on.
And that's a wrap. That was a really good episode. I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to your critique, your feedback. Go ahead and hit me up on social media or email. Let me know your thoughts. Also, please make sure you go ahead, share this episode with someone else who you think would benefit from this. And as always, make sure you're subscribed for all the latest and the greatest that comes with Docs Outside the Box. So check it. I'm going to catch you all on the next episode. Before I jet, though, remember one thing. We only got one life. Let's make it count and live outside the box. Peace.